Consider a child born in India. Firstly, this child is far less likely to be born in South India than in North India, given the former's lower rates of population growth. But let's assume she is born in South India, in which case she is far less likely to die in the first year of her life, given the lower infant mortality rates in South India compared to the rest of the country. She is more likely to get vaccinated, less likely to lose her mother during childbirth, more likely to have access to child services, and receive better early childhood nutrition. She is also more likely to celebrate her 5th birthday, find a hospital or a doctor in case she falls sick, and eventually live a slightly longer life. She will go to school and stay in school longer. She will more likely go to college as well. She is less likely to be involved in agriculture for economic sustenance and more likely to find work that pays her more. She will also go on to be a mother to fewer children, who in turn will be healthier and more educated than her. And she'll also have greater political representation and more impact on elections as a voter. In short, a child born in southern India will live a healthier, wealthier, more secure, and a more socially impactful life compared with a child born in northern India. On many of these indicators of health, education, and economic opportunities, the difference between the South and the North is as stark as that between Europe and sub-Saharan Africa. But this hasn't always been the case. At the time of India's independence, the 4 southern states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, and Andhra Pradesh, which constituted about a quarter of India's population, were mostly in the middle or bottom in terms of development. A 5th state of Telangana was formed in 2014 through bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh. But the southern states started to diverge positively compared with the rest of India in the 1980s, a trend which has accelerated ever since. There is no one answer to why this has happened though. Each of the southern states has its own particular story, but in essence, the progress was achieved by the innovative policies of individual states. Some of those worked, some failed, and many were fiscally wasteful. But the states have acted as laboratories of democracy as they were intended to. Prime example of this is the midday meal scheme, which involves feeding students a free lunch at government schools. This began in Tamil Nadu. The scheme ended up increasing school admissions in the state, and today it boasts of the highest school enrollment gains in the country. In neighboring Kerala, scholars such as Nobel Prize-winning economist Amartya Sen have attributed advances in health and education to a combination of political mobilization and to the state's syncretic culture. Some political scientists have cited subnationalism, the strong regional identity of a state, as another possible reason. But the southern state's success has also led to a special problem. The 4 states have a smaller population than their northern counterparts, having seen lower population growth for a generation now.
For every 1 rupee of tax contributed by Uttar Pradesh, that state receives 1 rupee 79 paise back from central taxes.
Tamil Nadu puts 1 rupee and we get 30 to 35 paise back. So it's not the money that we begrudge, it's the lack of progress. It's like throwing money down a well.
While their prosperity leads them to being taxed more, on a per capita basis, because they are less populous, they are given a relatively smaller share in the central transfer of taxes, where the amount allocated is dependent on the population. Thus, they see themselves as being punished for their success. Many believe that this has been made worse by recent tax reforms. In the past, all states would raise revenues through indirect taxes, which gave them the financial freedom to make their own policies. But with the introduction of the Goods and Services Tax, GST, designed to unify the country into a single market, the states say they have little leeway now to raise their own finances and are increasingly dependent on federal transfers.
The budget allocated for 22-23 for new lines to the Southern Railways is only 59 crores. 59 crores to the Southern Railways, and the Northern Railways is 13,200 crores.
This has made the relations between the central government and the South tense. In 2020, for example, after a particularly prolonged political battle between Delhi and the southern states on the GST, the federal government agreed to pay the states what it lawfully owed them only after some state governments threatened to sue. Earlier this year, there was a tussle between states and the central government about lowering fuel prices, with the latter demanding that the states do so, and many of the southern states pushing back. It's a problem with no easy solutions. On the one hand, there are people in Uttar Pradesh who want to be treated just like a citizen in Tamil Nadu in terms of government services and welfare schemes. But on the other hand, there are citizens of Tamil Nadu who, instead of spending more money on themselves, end up sending it to states such as Uttar Pradesh via the complicated tax system. And that's not all. Relations between the South and the central government could get even more fraught in the future as the country gears up for another round of delimitation in 2026. The exercise, which was last done in 1976, refers to redrawing the boundaries of electoral seats to represent changes in population over time. This means that along with revenue loss and lack of freedom to make its own policies, the prosperous South may have fewer seats in parliament in the future. Let us understand now what the delimitation exercise actually entails and how it impacts the southern states of our country. The delimitation of Lok Sabha seats is the process of fixing limits or boundaries of territorial constituencies in a country to reflect changes in population. The Delimitation Commission Act was established in 1952 and allowed the Union government to set up a delimitation commission as needed. The main objective is to follow the principle of one vote, one value and ensure a fair division of geographical areas to prevent any political party from having an advantage in an election. The Delimitation Commission is set up by the Union government after every census, as per the provisions of the Delimitation Commission Act and the Constitution of India. The economic situation of the southern states has improved significantly in recent years, with a significant reduction in poverty and an increase in income levels. The combined GDP of just 3 states, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, is greater than all the states in the East combined. In terms of educational and health outcomes, the southern states have performed better compared to the northern states, with a higher proportion of graduates and better learning outcomes. The better educational and health outcomes in the southern states imply a better ability to discern and make decisions, and a higher expectation for better public services and governance. The 2019 research paper, India's Emerging Crisis of Representation, discusses the potential impact of delimitation on the allocation of seats in India's parliament. According to the paper, if the delimitation is carried out based on the 2031 census, states in the north such as Bihar and Uttar Pradesh are expected to gain 21 seats, while southern states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala may lose 16 seats. The delimitation could also potentially shift power away from the south and towards the north and affect the allocation of seats reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. By the south, I mean here the 5 states dominated by Indians speaking Dravidian languages: Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, plus the Union Territory of Puducherry. As per the current distribution, these territories in the south select 130 lawmakers, quite a formidable number in a house of 543 elected parliamentarians. But just 2 among the most populous states of the north, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, together select 120 lawmakers. And there are more Hindi-speaking states, not to mention other states in the north. In other words, it is becoming possible to win national parliamentary elections in India by winning a vast majority of seats in the north and none in the south, while the reverse is not possible. Moreover, population growth slowed down in parts of the south over the past decades more than in the north. Thus, if delimitation were to occur now, the disparities between the regions would be greatly widened. Let me pick 2 extreme cases. Rajasthan in the north, and Kerala in the south. In 1971, before the freezing of delimitation, the two states had roughly a similar starting position. The population of Kerala was 21 million, while that of Rajasthan was 25 million. In 2011, the population of Kerala had grown to 33 million, while that of Rajasthan had ballooned to 68 million. Mathematically speaking, and not taking into account other aspects, if the delimitation exercise is carried out now, the number of lawmakers Kerala sends to Lok Sabha would increase by only half, while those selected from Rajasthan would double. It is argued that the distribution of parliamentary constituencies in India favors populous states such as Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, while southern states like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka have fewer seats. If delimitation takes place, southern states will likely experience a reduction in the number of seats allocated to them compared to the northern states. While we talk about the significant progress made by South India over the last few decades, it is important to note the factors that may have helped it achieve this feat. Although there is no definitive answer to why the southern states have performed better than their northern counterparts, there are some possible factors that may have contributed to this gap. Let us start by looking at what happened historically and then move on to the current day situation. South India has a rich historical legacy, with ancient kingdoms like the Cholas, Pandyas, and Cheras fostering trade and commerce. These kingdoms developed extensive trade links with foreign nations, facilitating economic growth and cultural exchange. On the other hand, the northern region experienced frequent invasions and power struggles throughout history, leading to the destruction of existing structures and institutions. The Mughal Empire, while bringing significant cultural and architectural influences, also witnessed a decline in governance and administrative systems. Another example of the impact of these invasions on the northern region is the destruction of several monuments that could have become lasting symbols of art, culture, and history had they been allowed to exist. Many Hindu temples in North India were destroyed by Muslim invaders and rulers who either demolished them completely or converted them into mosques. Some of the famous temples that were destroyed include the Mardand Sun Temple in Kashmir, the Modhera Sun Temple in Gujarat, the Somnath Temple in Gujarat, the Kashi Vishwanath Temple in Varanasi, and the Triambakeshwar Shiv Temple in Maharashtra. These temples were not only places of worship, but also symbols of art and culture. On the other hand, South India was relatively spared from such destruction, as it was geographically distant and hence less accessible to the invaders. The South was also not as heavily involved in India's struggle to get freedom from the British as the northern part of the country was. These factors related to the historical backdrop have had a lasting impact on the development trajectory of both regions. After gaining independence, South India has had more stable and effective governments that have implemented innovative policies and schemes to ensure welfare of their people. Some examples of these reforms are 1. Midday meal scheme in Tamil Nadu, which increased school enrollment and reduced malnutrition. 2. The land reforms and decentralization in Kerala, which empowered the local communities and improved public service delivery. 3. The IT sector boom in Karnataka, which attracted foreign investment and created employment opportunities. And 4. The self-help group movement in Andhra Pradesh, which improved women's empowerment and financial inclusion. The southern states have also been more vocal and assertive in demanding greater autonomy and fiscal devolution from the central government, which has enabled them to pursue their own developmental agendas. South India has been ahead of North India in literacy, infant mortality, life expectancy, fertility rate, and other factors that affect productivity and well-being. These indicators reflect the investment in human capital and the quality of public services in the South. A healthy and well-educated population is likely to have better economic prospects and opportunities. These factors have enabled the South to reap the benefits of the demographic dividend, while the North faces the challenges of population pressure and its impact on human development. South India has a more diversified and dynamic economy than North India, which is still largely dependent on agriculture. The South has witnessed rapid growth in sectors such as IT, biotechnology, manufacturing services, and tourism. These sectors have generated more income, employment, and tax revenues for the southern states. South India also has more trade and investment links with the rest of the world, especially with East and Southeast Asia. The southern states and Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Goa have an undeniable location advantage that also seems to have been one of the key reasons for their continued progress and development. 4 of the 5 South Indian states have a coastline with either the Arabian Sea or the Bay of Bengal. Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Goa, 3 other top-performing states, also have a coastline that is used heavily for imports and exports. Coastal states have a higher share of exports and imports in their GDP, which boosts their economic growth and competitiveness. For example, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka are among the top 5 states in terms of exports and imports. Coastal states also receive more than 60% of India's FDI inflow. They also have an advantage in terms of access to international markets and foreign investments, as they have ports and harbors that facilitate maritime trade and commerce. Another advantage that these states have is an opportunity to develop tourism as a source of income and employment, as they have scenic beaches, islands, mangroves, and other coastal attractions that attract both domestic and foreign tourists in large numbers. The proximity to the coast and consequently to better opportunities of exports and imports also enables the establishment of more industries like automobile manufacturing and textiles in the region. These create better job opportunities and result in massive revenues for the southern states. I believe that the northern states need to learn from the best practices of the southern states, which have achieved higher levels of health, education, and economic opportunities. I was born and brought up in North India, but have been living in the southern part of the country for the last 12 years now. I have really enjoyed my experience here so far, but I've also had the opportunity to witness some of the issues that the South faces as well. However, if we were to talk in absolute layman terms, without citing any of the bigger developmental indices, you would still notice in the South better roads on the highways, more developed, clean and greener villages, and less people engaged in menial tasks as compared to what you would find in the North. However, the standard Indian issues of corruption, political instability and nepotism, patriarchy, dowry, and caste discrimination all exist in the South as well, perhaps just in a smaller measure than in the North. Another difference is that though there are similar issues here as compared to the ones the North faces, the continued focus on education, social development, and better infrastructure in the South ensures that any damage caused by the instability factors is offset several times over by the progress made in the other areas. As we come to the end of this video, I would like to mention that the need of the moment is to promote progress, peace, and a sense of harmony between the southern and northern regions. And an exercise like delimitation, if it is carried out after the 2026 census, may end up creating a regional imbalance and consequently resentment among the southern states. Our government must consider coming up with creative solutions to avoid this from happening, as harmony between the southern and northern part of the country is the only way to ensure that the nation will progress as a whole. Thank you for staying with us and watching this video. If you like this content, we request you to click like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with family and friends. This will help us in consistently bringing more such detailed videos to you. Once again, thank you for your time.